be watching the late 70s horror Nature Gone Wild classic, Squirm. And if you guys have never seen this movie, there was a plethora of films back in the day dedicated to Nature Gone Wild because it, you know, that premise preyed on everyone's fears. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't seen this movie in a long time. The last time I actually watched this movie was probably back in the day, back in the 80s, on VHS from one of the multitude of video stores that were prevalent in the area. And yeah, you know, I was more, I gotta admit, I was more into slasher movies like Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, My Bloody Valentine, things like that. So I didn't really have the patience for a movie like this. So I watched it and I just kind of tossed it in the pile of experiences, horror movie experiences.
Yeah, this is the kind of film that when I first time I saw it was like late at night, whenever they would, you know, play films of this nature on, you know, late night TV. And of course it was late and I think I fell asleep, but it's a movie that's just odd enough and dark enough to really stay with you. And I never really forgot it after seeing that night, even though I didn't actually watch the whole thing. But it's, you know, and it preys upon a very basic human fear, you know. I mean, who hasn't, especially when their kids are afraid or creeped out by, grossed out by worms, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's like, this whole, you know, nature turning against you was a huge theme in the 70s. And I think it was like ecological, you know, you're just looking for the next big thing to scare people. But
right, and there was a lot of movies like that back in the day, you know, like The Prophecy and Slugs, and I think there was even one about a giant grizzly bear, and then there was like, yeah, and there was like another one called like Ants. Bottom line is,
in your pants?
Ants in me pants.
I've never seen this movie.
We're about to watch it right now, so while we do that, why don't you guys check out the trailer for this for this awesome Nature Gone Wild classic. And remember, folks, the trailer you're about to watch is for educational and historical purposes.
So use it wisely.
It was a violent summer storm. Millions of volts slashed the earth. There had been bad storms before, but this time there were changes.
Little mother bit me. I never saw him bite like that.
This was the night of the crawling terror. Squirm. They came to feed on human flesh. You sweat, but you don't dare move. You want to scream, but you can't. Terror grips every nerve in your body. Your heart beats so fast, it feels like it's going to burst.
They're dead!
Squirm. A new experience in pure fright. Rated R.
Okay, so we just got done watching Squirm. We're hot off its heels, and I gotta say, I enjoyed the movie for the most part. But overall, I mean, there was a few aspects that left something to be desired. You know, I kind of remembered my feelings for this movie back in the day were very similar, and you know, all these years later, they were kind of mimicked right now. And you know, my biggest gripe is it takes extremely long to get to any of the gritty, slimy, grotesque worm action that the trailer implies. And that was actually kind of a thing back in the day. I mean, trailers, they had to captivate your interest because all they had was this single moment to show you what their movie had to offer, and then that was it. You had to remember it, and then when the movie was released, oh yeah, that's that movie with those grotesque worms. Holy fucking shit, I gotta see it. And I get the feeling that's how this was. So overall, I think this is a pretty good nature gone crazy horror movie, but I gotta admit, honestly speaking, I prefer Slugs, which is a much better use of slimy, grotesque worms devouring people movie. In the end, I'm going to say this right now, though. Out of 10 stars, I'm going to have to give this one a 7. So, there you have it, folks.
Yeah, I have to say, like, Tom's
definitely right about it taking a while to sort of build up to, the big finale towards the end. And I mean, the finale is worth it. This movie does have a lot going for it in the sense that, the whole worm in the face, scene that kind of is pictured here. It's kind of maybe what this movie is most famous for. That's pretty effective. And then all the worms that they get, I mean, they get a ton of worms for this movie. It's just like a whole, like mounds and mounds of worms. And it's like, where the fuck did they get all these damn worms? So you can appreciate it for that reason. But, I mean, it is what it is. It's a cheap, kind of a cheapo 70s B flick, which but still manages to be entertaining. It's very much a part of its era, so it's kind of a period piece, so you can appreciate it for that. But I mean, it was an entertaining flick for what it was. So, all faults included, and it does have them. But I'd have to give it maybe like 5, 6, 4 within that vicinity. That's it.
My cut went down.
Can you narrow it down? I heard 3 different numbers. Are we going to go with 5 because that was the
Probably
middle ground?
5, yeah. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I didn't dislike it. It was entertaining. I had no major gripes with it, but it wasn't perfect. So probably, but it does get the worms are cool. They just kind of squirm around you. Although there should have been more. I wish there could have been more than what there was.
All right, so Squirm. 70s movie starring sexy Southern Raggedy Ann and Reamer from Basketball and Juliette Lewis, and then we got Michael Richards with fucking worms popping out of his face.
Really creepy Michael Richards.
Yeah.
What?
Talking about.
Squirm, man. Fucking, that's who was in the movie, right? Like, we got the sexy redhead, and then, there was a dude that looked like Michael Richards, and, he apparently got infected by crazy mutant worms, and then, I was pretty much just checking out the redhead the entire time, and at the end there were more worms. And Reamer from Basketball was there to save the cute redhead chick. And, there at the end, it was 70s, and there was a redhead chick.
Okay.
Just kidding. I'm pretty drunk, but I'm not that drunk. Actually, seriously, it felt like 2 movies almost. It felt like a 70s movie where, the teens were in love with each other, but then all of a sudden they were trying to make a horror movie out of it. And I feel like the first act could have been seen as a totally different movie from the third act. And I gotta say, movie-wise, I think this shit was terrible. But, I enjoyed myself watching it. I mean, I was drunk, again, I joked around, but, the redhead chick, very cute. She kept my intrigue most of the movie. But, by the end, when I realized, what the payoff was going to be horror-wise, I really think it's a shitty movie. And I'm going to give it 3 out of 10. I can't believe you gave a 7, Tom.
Hey, man. Different strokes for different folks, dude. And that's the way it is.
The music, when the worms are on screen, is pretty effective. It's kind of a creepy little synthesizer build-up. So there was a lot of that in those movies back in the day. It's a lost art because it was very effective. Amen.